Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again, another session of the GSE and RAMP-OPS Global Digital Event. I've got two great guests here and both sitting in very sunny climes. So it's nice for anybody out there on these wintry days, wintry evenings to just reflect on where you could be. And the two people I'm talking about is Nick Heemskerk, who's the VP Global Product Development Manager at JBT. So Nick, welcome on board, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
And Ramon Marino, who's the Manager Logistics and GSE for Acciona Airport Services. Ramon, lovely to have you on board, sir.
Thank you very much, and happy to be here, Chris.
Great stuff. And for those who can't see by their happy faces, Nick is speaking from Orlando and Ramon is from Palma, Mallorca. So lovely boys, nice sunny spirits. Now, before we get stuck in, obviously the subject matter that we're talking about is that of future technology and changes, including artificial intelligence and GSE collision avoidance systems, all speed up in response, and what we're doing now coming out of COVID with hopefully a faster approach to certain changes. Now, before we get stuck into that, what I'd like each of you to do, please, is just give a brief background of what you do, what you're responsible for, if you wouldn't mind. So do we start with you, Nick?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Nick Heemskerk. I'm the VP for Product Development for the GSE for JBT. We're a manufacturer of ground support equipment. We have a couple of factories around the world. I'm based in Orlando, where we make aircraft loaders, de-icers and tractors. And then we have a factory in Madrid, Spain. We have a plant in Mexico where we make sub-assemblies, and we have a couple other locations. We have one in Bridgend in Wales and one in Warrenton on the west coast of the US as well. And as the responsible person for product development, I lead the engineering team, and we're constantly updating our ground support equipment, coming out with new products and adding new features to our existing products. And some of those we'll talk about today, I think.
Very good indeed. Yep, lovely. And Ramon?
Okay, well, my name is Ramon Castelltort. I'm, as said by Chris, I'm based in Palma de Mallorca. I belong to Acciona Airport Services organization. And my current position is manager logistics and GSE. I'm in charge of all the GSE fleet in our business in airport. And now we have presence. Currently, we have presence in Spain, also in Germany. We have handling license in Düsseldorf, and also in Chile. In Chile, we have presence as Acciona Airport Services, and also in 2019, sorry, we purchased the handling division from LATAM, called Andes, in Santiago de Chile.
Lovely.
And this, yep. And then all the GSE topics that can raise in these areas. I'm responsible to support the local teams.
Okay, well done, well done. So now, thanks for that intro, gents. Now, the subject matter, obviously, that we're referring to and that we're talking to is one that's important. But before we get stuck into that, what I'd like to go through is, obviously, this pandemic has created such an awareness now of things that people took for granted before. So if people were lucky enough to have a plan A and a plan B, then, you know, you'd applaud them. But equally, if they addressed risk and some of the continuity and contingency and succession issues, you'd be thinking, my God, you know, why are they spending so much time on this? But now everybody looks back and you think about what you should have done, could have done, would have done. What I just want to ask you both, and either one of you can start, is what have been the most successful lessons learned from both of you in your positions and your respective responsibilities as a result of this last 16 to 18 months?
Okay, Chris, if you want to start.
Anyone, either one of you? Yeah, knock me down in the stampede, boys.
Yeah, well, from I must say that unfortunately the aviation business was the first that was stopped at the beginning on the pandemic, and the last business that plenty restart because there was a lot of restrictions about how we can fly or where we can fly it, and where, for example, until the last month we cannot fly to Chile. This was because there was Chilean restrictions for the incoming passengers and so on. And then how we learn we must to have a view in the future for next we must to learn what happened during the last month about a GSE. What happened normally, practically the whole handling engine must to stop them GSE for long term, and then at the moment that we wanted to restart of the GSE, a lot of maintenance issues were raised for everyone. Yep. And then this is one of the main topics about the GSE. We must to learn about to take care about our GSEs in a long-term storage, because after that the economical impact for the restarting is quite important for the handling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe we need the support from the manufacturers. I hope that this situation not be occur again. Okay, not happen again, but we need maybe a closer support from the manufacturer regarding how to stop our GSE in a safe condition and with a less impact.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much, Ramon and Nick.
Yeah, I'll speak from as a manufacturer. Of course, we were hit by the same impact. Basically, all of our customers decide to postpone their purchases on the same day when they realized how big this was going to be. We had some advantages. We're part of a larger corporation that also is in the food business. People still got to eat, although there's a pandemic. So we were, and part of our business is on the boarding bridge side, and those projects I think kept going because they were longer term projects. So we were able to weather the storm as a business pretty well and keep going full speed ahead on the engineering side, which was really great. So it actually gave us an opportunity in my field on the product development side to actually get ahead a little bit or catch up and address some of the concerns and some of the opportunities that we see. So bring out new features.
Yeah,
that will hopefully help us in the future when we all come out of this and we deal with the after effects such as shortages of skilled personnel.
Exactly, and we'll come to that. We'll come to that specific point shortly. Now, I've just come back down to Spain, and I've said on a couple of shows that one of the things that I've started to take notice of more now than I ever did before, maybe I still heard it, but I didn't take notice of it, is what people say when they're on the transfer from the stands, you know, to the aircraft and back. And especially if you're on a remote stand. And now people are, you know, coming up with these points like, why are we going so far? What a waste of fuel. This isn't good for the planet. And then they're talking about how much equipment they're seeing all around the airport, you know, and the condition of it, whether it's been cleaned, etc. So I think there's a huge opportunity for some PR and some awareness so that people understand what it means, you know, to have aircraft that suddenly the schedules increase and the schedules detract and they go back again, and what that means. And also misguidance with some of the equipment where they say, why is the equipment running? Even employees, why is the equipment running? It should be turned off every time, but in certain conditions it's better to actually have it running than keep turning it on or off. So what do you think of the, you know, the public opinion that's starting to, which it always has been, attacking aviation, but now more so than ever? How do you think that's going to play out in the future? Nick?
Yeah, from my point of view, I think it will definitely help push us in this direction of the cleaner technology, and of course if you look at the actual amount of emissions, the airplane is of course the large contributor, but the ground support equipment is what the passengers see as they are getting in and out of the plane, to your point, Chris. And yeah. I think it's a good place to start showing that the airline industry is making strides to clean up the industry. And it's a
great opportunity because there's a lot of equipment out there that is frankly old, that is up for replacement. And of course, the question is will we be able to afford updating all of that, and how long is it going to take?
Exactly. I think it's something like 4 to 6% of the total aviation emissions are on ground equipment. So it's quite a small amount, but it's what people see straight away.
Right.
So, Ramon, how far ahead, or what's your strategy with regards to either trying to convert or trying to change to electric?
Yeah, well, we are pushing really hard to become our fleet in electrical. I must say that our projects in become electrical, our fleet were stopped for 16 months already because during the pandemic, but now that we are tendering with some airports, and we find out that many airports are requesting a minimum electrical equipment for each family in them tender documentations. For example, we just tendered to Berlin, and there was some in the tender documentation, the airport requests a percentage of electric equipment in some families. Okay, and then Acciona is a sustainability company, and he's pushing very hard for becomes as much sustainability we can have. And then our view is from now we start to change our fleet to the maximum of electrical GSE as we can have. Yeah. Okay, because for example, now we are reviewing the tender documentation for Spain, and they are pushing very hard. The airport authorities are pushing very hard to have 60% of the fleet electrical in 2029, for example. Okay, I think that's yeah, as you said, the total emissions of the ground handling is very small compared with the rest. This is only a 5-6%, but I think that the emissions that we produce in the airport stay at the airport.
Yeah.
Or it's true. An aircraft can produce as much more emissions than GSE, but it's another area. They are flying at 30,000 feet, and it's different. But the emissions produced in an airport stay in an airport or close off the airport. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, so it gets a lot more focus. Yeah.
And then it depends also from the airport infrastructure about electrification. Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, we find out that, for example, in Germany is quite developed the electrification. You cannot when you start in an airport, you can find some recharging points already installed. But for example, in Spain, there is not a big infrastructure. The developing of the electrification infrastructure falls on the ground handlers side. Okay, and it's a big challenge for us.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's one thing to put in tenders future proofing, but airports have got to start investing now in the capability, the power, the surge, all that's necessary, because otherwise, this is one of the things that I think we've all got to be careful of. Is we're talking at extremes, from politicians to individuals who love to be talking about what should, would, and could happen. But if you look at the 3 Ps, people, profit, and planet, there's a lot of understanding that people need and certain practices and changes of ways. But if businesses are not making enough money, there isn't money to spend on those changes to support the planet. So most airports don't have that capability, which is a difficult thing. And Nick, if once it does, then the business has got to start looking for different types of mechanics, electromechanics, which is a lot different and a very different approach. So you've got that issue to invest in as well.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, there's less maintenance with electric equipment, but the maintenance that you do have is of a different nature. So it does change the the training needs for mechanics and the type of people that you use. Now, we've spent a lot of time trying to, when we add new technology to our equipment, to make sure that it doesn't create a machine that's harder to maintain or to troubleshoot. So, you know, when we add, for instance, PLC technology to our equipment, we put displays on there that make it easy to troubleshoot. We add features that kind of dumb it down a little bit, or at least, you know, set it up so that you don't have to be a programmer or a you know, somebody with a master's in electrical engineering to be able to troubleshoot this thing.
Yeah, no, good. And now something that I think has been around for a while, and some airports have done it very successfully. Some have done it partially with hard stand pooling, but the idea of pooling now at airports, whereby airports take the responsibility for it. I think there's a great opportunity now for airports to start influence their own ecosystem and supporting all the tenants and the parties of an airport so that they work a lot closer with handlers to attract carriers, because at the end of the day, as has been seen, carriers can come in, they can go out, they can stop, they can start, they can grow, they can shrink. But the handlers and the airports are always there together. So some sort of a hybrid model whereby the airport, you know, puts a lot more effort into what should or shouldn't happen. I think that's a great opportunity. Do you both see that as something realistic or something that people should be looking more at? So, you know, full pooling?
Well, I'm totally supporting the pooling, because I think that could be a good solution for overall the big GSEs, as per example, the passenger buses, the big pushbacks, the big towers, the big maybe in certain airports, for example, the main deck cargo.
The high loaders and
cargo loader. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think this could be a solution. For example, here in Palma, we started the POC for pushback pooling with Iberia and Ground Force, supported with TCR.
Yeah.
We are starting because I think for certain GSE is the future. Because now we are in an internal agreement between Iberia and Ground Force, and also TCR and Acciona, and also we have a pooling for dollies and charts in Düsseldorf, and this is working from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that could be a solution for certain GSE, and also I'm totally supporting this idea. But from my point of view, shall be a big support coming from the airport.
Yes. Yeah. And I really now think that the next positive disruptor to the supply chain success is what the airports decide to do, and how they decide to bring everybody together. And then we'll see, you know, whether or not collaboration is something that everybody embraces. So yeah, thank you for that, Ramon. Now, Nick, with the innovation and you know, items that you're doing differently. So we've got artificial intelligence, we've got telematics, we've got all manner of things, biometrics now coming into the frame. What do you think are the main drawbacks? Because obviously, you know, there's a lot of capability there, but people don't seem to use it. And when they know it, they don't seem to know what to do with the data.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. I think first, for the operators that are on the equipment, I think we're getting over the hump there, right? I think the new operators that are being hired today all have drive a car. If they drive a car, they drive a car with a backup camera, with lane departure warnings, and with all the little gizmos that make the job a little easier. And that's the kind of stuff that we're adding to our equipment today that makes the sometimes very complicated jobs of de-icing an aircraft or docking a loader with an aircraft door a lot easier, right? And you know, if you have a camera and sensors to help you back up your car in the driveway, why not add that to a loader that's pulling up to within inches of a very expensive aircraft?
Exactly.
And I think that the fact that people see this in their everyday life now makes that a lot easier. It lowers that barrier to using it and trusting it. And that's a big opportunity for us. The other one that you mentioned with the telematics, that is another area where we focus. So on our modern equipment, we have a lot of data on board on the control system of the GSE. And we're transmitting all of that to a central system with our IOPS telemetry system. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of data there, and that's where artificial intelligence and different types of analysis in the future will help us use that more for predictive maintenance and things like that. We're just at the beginning of that. We are basically making sure we're capturing all that data and transmitting it. We're starting to do some analysis, and we're talking to customers and finding out what they want, what they can use, and frankly, it's a lot of back and forth, because in that interaction with the customer, you find out new uses of that data every day. And so we're trying to not be constrained by knowing what we're going to use it for right now. We basically want all of it. And one other thing that you mentioned that maybe goes to the pooling aspect is access control and user-specific settings on the equipment, right? So one of the features that we get with telematics is the ability to limit who can use the equipment and record who's using it, which will help with pooling, which will help with dividing the bill between the different folks that use it, and improving the equipment and improving the utilization of the equipment based on all the data that you get from it.
Yeah, and from that, Nick, that control, I take it you're talking about smart cards or codes or whatever.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's right now. We had some discussions actually with some of our customers at the latest GSE Expo, and it's what device we use to unlock the machine is a little tricky, but right now a smart card seems to be the best way to do that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because, and again, just excuse me, it's just my opinion and experience, but a smart card could be transferable, especially in stressful or pressurized situations. Mm-hmm. Okay, same as a fingerprint. Okay.
Yeah. But almost everybody that works at the airport has their access control for the airport, right? And they know better than to transfer that. And so we can either link it with that, or impose the same level of discipline and the same level of consequences for not following that discipline.
100%. That's why I said, Nick, under stressful or pressurized situations. Yeah. But one of the things, and this is just an opportunity to ask you now, do you think there's mileage in it? And I'm going to come to you as well, Ramon, because of the fatigue and stress element of staff, is to have biometrics, Nick, that can recognize the person facially, and then it stays there because there'd be a camera in the equipment, so it can't. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a card that I can pull off my tabard and put it in, and then somebody else drives off with it. It's a facial thing, but also a facial biometrics that can also, monitor, heart rates, respiratory stress levels, so that there's also an onus to come back on the employer as a duty of care to look after the wellness and well-being of the employees, and also to make sure that they're not putting them under too much pressure, like, too many shifts, too long shifts, or, too much reliance on a few people. Do you think there's some opportunity there?
Yeah, but we must do to the first step. The first step is the legal, because not all the staff wants to be recorded during the operation with a camera or something like that. But in any case, I think it could be good. For example, in telematics, I was telling you before, is a good is a perfect system for recovery a lot of information, not only about the position of the GSE, because at the end, everyone who talk about telematics, everyone thinks about the same, the big screen with all my GSE located in. But I think this is the less important thing. From my point of view, is all the information that you can have behind regarding how many kilometers or how many operational hours are doing at the GSE, how many time are in idle, how many time are in operation, which is the behavior regarding the usage of the GSE coming from the staff, how is the behavior with how the staff is driving the GSE. You can take a lot of information to analyze if the GSE are correctly being used. Okay, if you can reduce emissions with a good management of your GSE, because for example, I don't know, you can have a tractor driver sitting in a tractor waiting for an aircraft with the engine running for 15 minutes, wasting fuel, creating emissions, generating a lot of emissions, and then you can analyze the behavior and take some decisions regarding new procedures to reduce or to optimize your resource. And also for maintenance, it's good to know to calculate, or it's a very good tool to calculate which could be your next maintenance, and so on. And also, if the staff are agree, the biometrics could be a very good tool to know which is the behavior of the staff, if they are stressed, if they are, and then take care about them, and maybe you can take some decisions about if your procedures are correct, or you need to change something because you are stressing a lot your staff, or you can find that there you have a part of your staff during a part of the shift very stressed, and you have a part of your staff now quiet, because, and then try to optimize these resources to give better life for some staffs. Okay.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you looped it back again to the biometrics, because one of the points you said was that through telematics, etc., you can identify how equipment is being used and driven, which is also a reflection of the individual, whereas the biometrics is for their protection and everybody else's protection. And having witnessed somebody getting killed in an environment, I don't think anybody could actually defend not allowing certain things that are for the safety of everybody to be done, because even if we save only one life, it's far better than people saying, well, I don't want people to see me. And it's happening now in vehicles and cars. You've got cameras, they've got the capability. All they do at the moment is it's a motion. So if they feel that you're not moving the way you should, according to the way a driver should, they give you a reminder maybe to pull over, have a sleep or a drink. But, I just think the way things are going and the way people are living their lives now, with lots of stresses. And, I've worked all over the world. And in some cases, you see people finishing one shift, go to the car park, they change their shirt and their top, and then they go and do another shift somewhere else. So fatigue and stress, because of salary levels, is such an important thing in our industry.
Giving you an example, for example, if you have in your telematics, you can check if there is some overspeeds from, for example, the tractor drivers. If there is one or two drivers continuously reporting overspeeds, could be a driving behavior. But if you have all your baggage tractor drivers during a period of the day in overspeed, that means that they are stressed because they are working over them possibilities. And then you can have some kind this kind of information and take decision about it.
And it's also to prevent pressurized management from making decisions, because I know a lot of areas where they've encouraged people to go faster to meet the KPIs and the deadlines. And there's an awful lot of pressures on people now. So that's something that we need to be careful of. Now, Nick, I just want to ask you something with the equipment and also with the measures that you've got. Incidents. As people have started to come back now and things are moving from one day you've got X amount of a schedule, then it gets cancelled, something else comes in. People can't be as consistent as they were before. Did you see an increase in incidents when people were coming back?
I don't think that we have enough data to say there's an increase or a decrease. That we can't see that at our level yet, because a lot of aircraft strikes that are pure operator error or pure operational concerns, we don't hear about as the manufacturer. It basically comes back to us if there's a question about the equipment. So I'm not sure we're in the right position for that, but we definitely see an interest from customers in operator assist features, in anything that makes the task a little easier. And even if we can't automate the whole task, because often when we start talking about automating operations, everybody thinks about the level 5 self-driving car. What we find is that there are smaller bites out of that apple that we can take. There are certain tasks that are particularly tricky, like for instance, the docking of the loader, the last 10 yards or 10 meters, where there's a lot of time pressure, where everybody's standing around waiting for you to get that done. And you got to be very precise. And if you make a mistake, you got to back up and you're delaying everybody. And so helping people with that task, there's big benefit to that. And there's lots of little places like that in ground operations, I think, where we can make life a little easier for the operator and give him a little bit more bandwidth to check his surroundings while he's doing that, or to make sure he does a better job.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%, and that auto alignment, with markers is so important. Ramon, training. So with so many experienced people now that went on furlough, they were made redundant. They decided that, let's reflect on life and do something different and maybe cross over into a different industry. An awful lot of people that have gone won't be coming back. So with that level of experience gone, how difficult, or what are you doing differently with regards to training for succession and capability?
Well, for us, the training is a big issue for us, because not for example, in Palma, we are a seasonal airport. And then we have a big rotation of staff every year. And then every year we need to train a lot of new staffs, seasonal staff. And it's a big challenge for us, because maybe for in the passenger side, there is easy, because they must to train some checking APPs or so on. But on the area, at the end we have people with a very short with a very short experience and driving GSEs. Okay, I must to say that, and then our training is based off. We have we focus our training in safety, of course, and safety overall in the operation of the GSE that operates close to the aircraft. And also I must to say that the new anti-collision systems help us a lot to avoid incidents and collisions with aircraft. I must say that we from the last GSEs that we purchased in our last orders during the last 3 years, all the GSEs in contact with with an aircraft were purchased with the anti-collision system. And then I must to say that we have no incidents with any GSE with anti-collision installed, and I think that is the way that we must go through. And also in the training, we focus that, okay, our GSE have anti-collisions, but you must to be careful in the same way that you have this anti-collision system, okay? Because it's and that's our in training, or in our I said before, is our main challenge is the safety in the operation area, okay? Because at least if we hit an aircraft, if we have an incident with an aircraft, it produces a big problem to the airline, to our customers.
Yeah.
For the insurance and so on. And last, it represents a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I come back to the principle of the airport now being a huge influencer moving forward, because in theory, in principle, they could lay down their own code of practice or their own code of conduct, and they could future-proof buildings. So they could have them all, it could be all green line buildings, green, solar heating, etc. They could encourage that. They could have digitization, no paperwork. Then the same with equipment. They could insist on a pooling of equipment, and even to the point of pooling certain experienced personnel, so that they went with a certain fleet or they went with certain equipment type, and you always had a pool, and then you just used it as you needed it. And I definitely think that's something that should be considered, because if what you're saying there, Ramon, with the personnel, and Nick, what you're saying with equipment, if an airport said every single piece of equipment had to have an anti-collision capability, well, then you take away that risk of people 1 minute having, it's a little bit like getting into a car and then getting into an old car, and you think, my God, why have I hit the wall? There was no bleep, and it's
Yep.
So, I really think that the airports have got they've got the ace card in their hand if they decided to do it.
Yeah, of course, the anti-collision system shall be an additional.
Yes.
On safety, not the way to do. Okay, I have an anti-collision. Okay, I can push the accelerator until the end, and the equipment will stop. No, the procedure shall be the same, as you do not have an anti-collision system. This is for me is the safe way to do the things, and it's true that and also for the training the practice is quite important for us. And obviously in the 7 months that the summer season takes not time enough for a complete developing of the training. But in any case, normally, and all the ground handlers normally they assign the GSE or the most complicated GSE for the most experienced staff, for sure. Yeah.
So that's encouraging, isn't it? The more experienced you are, the older the equipment you're given to drive while you're on shift.
Yeah.
That's great. Nick, can I ask you as well now about converting equipment and redistribution of high use equipment to areas where there's lower use? Mm-hmm. Are you guys partnering up and getting involved in that as well?
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, we are refurbishing equipment in all of our plants. It's a small part of our production, but we do it for customers that are interested in that. And almost always when we refurbish equipment, the power plant gets upgraded, right? So it either becomes a diesel engine that meets the latest emission criteria, or although the standards don't really require that, right? In many cases, you are allowed to put a diesel engine that's just as dirty as the original one in there, or one level cleaner, but all of our customers go for the latest technology in that case. And then there's quite a few customers that are looking at upgrading to electric equipment. And for quite a bit of our equipment, that's possible because we have a swing out power module that's basically contains the whole drivetrain on our loaders, and we can swap that out for one with an electric power plant and upgrade the equipment in that way.
Yeah, no, it's good. And even with diesel, Nick, obviously you've got red, you've got street diesel, but there's other diesels that have got such high duties on them, it doesn't make sense. And if governments took away that duty, at least then people would start to use the other diesel, which is a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how all of that works and who makes those decisions, but it definitely doesn't help. You're right.
Yeah, it's madness. Right, guys. Now, firstly, Nick, just a quick one. What new products are you developing?
Yeah, so right now we're working, we're basically rolling out electric versions of every piece of equipment in our fleet. And the loaders are done. We have electric versions of all of our loaders. We're now working on the electric versions of our tractors. We've had electric tractors in the past, but we're now rolling this out to the larger models as well. That in the past, maybe people thought, well, that's too big of a piece of equipment to operate in an electric version. That's no longer the case. So our largest main deck loaders and our largest tractors will be available in electric version. And then the other area is automation. So we're adding a lot of these operator assist features. The one that's probably the most exciting for people is the self-docking loader, the jet dock system. So that's a system that we can add to all of our different loader models, and it does the last 15 meters of the docking process autonomously. The operator is still required to be on the equipment. There's two enable switches that he's got to hold. So the operator is still in control ultimately, but the loader does the steering and the braking and the alignment all by itself, and it does it without targets. So that's one of the exciting things that makes it a lot easier to implement this in a fleet where you can't be sure, for instance, if you're a ground handler, that all of your customers are going to put these targets next to their cargo doors.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's important. Yeah. So what that's done through AI or through knowing an equipment piece or knowing, and then it automatically aligns.
Yeah, it's done by seeing the outline of the open door, and actually what enables that is the standard operating procedure of a lot of our customers changing to where the aircraft door is opened before the loader docks. Right. In the past, people used the loader to open the aircraft, and that actually caused a lot of strikes because as the door swings open, it hits
the rail and everything. That's what I was going to ask you. Right, guys, lovely. Now, I said at the beginning, and just as before you came on, that I was going to ask you an open question, both of you, which was if you and as we're near to Christmas, why not? If you could have a wish list of what could have a major impact in the next 9 months, what would that wish list be? And then equally on the flip side, what would your commitment or your involvement be to make that happen?
I think for me, and I think Ramon mentioned this before as well, is the infrastructure, the commitments from the airports to put in the infrastructure for electric equipment. And our commitment as a manufacturer and me as the head of product development for JBT is that we'll have electric versions of all of our equipment, clean, green versions. And by the way, the big savings there when you go electric come from eliminating the idling. It's not just the fact that you're using electricity instead of diesel to generate the power, but it's the fact that the electric motors only run when you're actually doing something. So it addresses that point that you opened with, that people see all this equipment out there running and doing nothing. So anyway, having the infrastructure there so that our customers can put in chargers or having a shared charger that's provided by the airport, I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. And obviously you're doing the support by making sure that all of your equipment has got the capability if the infrastructure and the power and surge, etc., is there at the airports.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing to mention there is that, right now customers are making investments again. They are, there's all this equipment that's been standing around that needs to be replaced. And the problem is if there's no infrastructure, customers are forced to buy another piece of diesel equipment that's going to last 20 years. So it's important to get it done quickly, or at least get the commitments out there.
Very good. And Ramon, from your side?
So I must say that my wish is the same that Nick is. How will be the commitment regarding the airport, regarding the electrification or the facilities for recharging? Because there is two challenges. There is the challenge about the power, because an airport will need a big quantity of energy if they can have a big electrified fleet. And also and is a topic that nobody's talking about is the area for charging, because not all the airports have enough apron area for have 200, 300 of electrical GSE.
Yeah.
With the area to electrify all of this, to have the chargers, because it's not the same area to charge a conveyor belt or a bag extractor than a bus or a big cargo loader or a big pushback. Okay.
Yep.
And then this is a big challenge for the airports, and this is what my Christmas wish is, how the airports will provide us for enough facilities for, and this is why have more sense the pooling.
Yeah.
Because a common using reduce the number of units.
Yeah.
And then you don't need to have as much as a recharging point that if a separate ground handling has, and also do a pooling about the charging points. For example, with a common using, it's quite easy. You can find a lot of managing programs for control who is charging, who is not charging, how long time you are charging, and also for the GSE, another wish, it could be that the ion lithium batteries be common for all, because with the ion lithium you can have the fast charger, and then reduce a lot the charging time, and then approach the electrical GSE to the diesel benefits, because you reduce the time that you must to have stop the GSE for recharging, and then you don't. And then if you can make some quick charging, you don't need to have an extended fleet, because if you can have maybe a full conveyor belt electrical fleet, you must have an additional backup unit for the recharging times.
Yeah. And that's why, like you're saying, you know, when people are going to extremes by saying you must, and quantities and quotas and percentages, if they don't understand the realities behind it, you know, every month that a decision is put off, it makes the problem add further down the road in the next generation. So
exactly right. Yeah.
Difficult thing, chaps. But listen, before we go, you know, everybody that's been involved in the supply chain, especially around aviation, you know, need a pat on the back and applause. And I hope Father Christmas brings them all everything that they wish for this year, because they've raised the profile of the supply chain so well, and they've made people think differently about how to accept some of the pressures, difficulties, but the importance of it. So well done to you both in your respective fields and professions, and absolutely brilliant what you've done. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and really appreciate you giving us your valuable time. So thank you.
Thank you to you, Chris and Nick, for all your experience and your work, because it was really interesting for me.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Ramon. Thanks, Chris.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
Thank you.